The person that you see in front of you today is a creation. Like, I created Kusudi. I've created who I am in all the aspects, right? Start questioning, who is it that you think you are? Because whoever you think you are, my question to you is, when did you make up in your mind that that's who you are? When did you accept that identity? And most people, they've accepted a limiting identity, but they don't even see it as limiting. They just see it as that's who they are. Start asking questions and stop making statements.
Men, the world is asking for you to stand up, to show up, to move forward in a new way. The pathway of embodied leadership is here. And where we're going, we go together. Using time-tested masculine frameworks for modern men who are ready to take ownership of their life. Guided by directions, elements, growth edge challenges, weekly rituals, and the 7 pillars of embodiment. Train directly with the leaders of Sacred Sons at Prime Leadership. Grow alongside your brothers in Leadership Training 1, or grow at your own pace with the Embodied Masculine course. Because together, we are more. Join this global movement today. Grand Rising, Sacred Sons. Adam Jackson here with another episode of the Sacred Sons podcast. Brothers and sisters, in this time of awakening, a big part of this game is finding the others. It's about light coming together with light. And it's about the mindset with which we do that. And with that, I'm inviting in today's guest, Kusudi, Muithi, because I saw him out there. I saw the videos, I felt the story, and I could feel his energy. And in doing so, I'm like, this is a brother I want to call into the community. This is a voice that I would like to share with others. So with that, our guest today, he is a coach and creator, and he is asking the world, what is your purpose? Please welcome Kusudi Muithi.
Listen, man, I'm so blessed. I'm so honored to be here. And I'm excited to see what we co-create in this episode, man, and the value that it will bring to everybody that's listening, all the ears that could listen, the eyes that could see this. So I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Beautiful. That's what's up. So let's drop right in. I want us to, just take a deep breath for ourselves, get it out, be here. And with that, Kusudi, on this beautiful day, what is most alive within you?
What's most alive today is always finding the perspective of least suffering. Truths are like facets on a diamond. And there's always multiple ways to look at anything. And it's not attaching yourself to the way that is causing you doubt or the way that's causing you frustration or the way that's causing you hurt, but to find the pathway of least suffering, find the pathway of most empowerment. And that's what I'm present to today is finding the thoughts and the feelings of most empowering and the feelings and thoughts of least suffering. So that's what I'm present to today, man. That's what's alive in me.
Yeah. And I imagine, I wonder, was there a time for you when you woke up and you did the opposite, where you looked for the pain, where you looked for the suffering? Did you ever have that type of perspective as you walk in this life?
Yeah. There was a time where I thought that was just a part of the experience. There was a time where I wasn't even present to the suffering. I just, you wear it for so long, you think that's how it feels. You get used to it. But I truly believe that I don't think in this human experience that we have, there will never not be any suffering. But I believe that the suffering could last a nanosecond once investigated. Once you build up the internal thermostat, right? It's like your house is set at 70 degrees. It doesn't mean that it's never going to get to 72, but it's going to kick in and it'll equalize itself out.
And can we make the adjustments necessary to bring that temperature back down to right where we want it at 70?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's what the experience is. It's not about never suffering. It's about having it adjusted to where it doesn't get too high, it doesn't get too deep, it doesn't last too long before you have the level of awareness to self-correct and get back in line within. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a time where it wasn't like that. Yeah, it was a time where it wasn't like that.
Yeah. And so specifically, 11 years ago, a bullet comes into one side of your head and comes out the other. And we know that wasn't the moment that everything changed for you. That was only the beginning. But for people who may not know your story, can you just maybe share with us whatever's present, from this place? But damn, like to go through something like that and to be on this journey, like, what is that like? What was that like?
In hindsight, what I could see is that experience was it's one of my biggest anchors in life now. And what I mean by that is that the only reason you will ever doubt the future is if you forget the past, if you stop remembering.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is that most people doubt what is it that they're going to be able to do in the future? What is it that they're going to be overcome? Because you stop remembering all the things that you've already overcame in your life. Well, if you look to the past and you see that, oh, I got over this situation. I got over this situation. I made it through this. God brought me through this. Spirit brought me through this. My ancestors brought me through this. Those situations that you were once in that felt insurmountable. When I got shot, that situation that felt insurmountable. It's like, I felt like my life was like in shambles at that time. I thought I was going to die, right? I took a bullet in the head and it came in on one side, out the other, kind of right underneath my earlobes on both sides, right? And just who I was in that moment, I thought that I would never get outside of that. And each one of us have a story that's similar, right? It may not be you got shot in the head, but pain is not an equivalent thing, meaning it's not like what I went through is more traumatizing to whatever you went through. You may have lost a friend. You may have suffered verbal abuse, physical abuse, spiritual abuse, sexual abuse, right? You may have had drug abuse. So everybody has been through something that has destroyed somebody else at some level. Everybody has made it through something that at some level has destroyed somebody else. And if you could hold on and anchor into that when I was a kid, I made it through this. Then I was a teenager and I made it through this. Then I went through this identity and I made it through this. And then all these situations, I made it through that. Then why would you ever question your ability to overcome things in the future? So, absolutely. Yeah, what's more alive in my life now is just being anchored in the things that I've overcome, that it has to be for a reason. Like it has to be for a purpose. I could count on more than two hands how many friends I've lost in the streets that's been shot and killed. I could count on even more than that how many friends I've lost in the streets that they're still alive, but they're mentally lost in the streets.
Yeah.
When I got out of jail, you start realizing that, being physically locked up was one of the best things for me. Being physically locked up is actually a gift sometimes, because when you're cognizant and you're conscious that you're locked up and when is it that I'm going to get out of this? Well, you get out and you see that more people are mentally locked up and spiritually locked up. It's just because it's not happening in their physical reality, they have no idea. And some people go to their deathbed caged mentally and spiritually. So when I look at where I've been in my life, what's alive for me now in that situation is it's just an anchoring. It's just like a knowing that I'm here for a purpose. I'm here for a reason. Anybody listening to this, you're here for a purpose. You're here for a reason. There's a reason that Spirit brought this conversation into your life. And when you could anchor in all the past hurts, the past obstacles, and you could see that you've overcome that, then let that be the proof of what can occur in the future for yourself as well.
Yeah. Another piece that you're illuminating here for me is the difference between never forget and always remember. Because when you take that never forget approach, it's almost like holding on to the trauma or to the piece of the thing that happened to you. But when it's like the mindset of always remember, it can be freeing. It can be a catalyst for real growth and for the challenges to come, exactly like what you're saying.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love the way that you put that. It becomes the fallback. It doesn't matter what's going to happen. I made it through all these situations, so I have to make it through this situation. So let's not wait until the situation is over to be happy and to be grateful and to be present and to be in love. Because I know historically, I will be mad, I'll be upset, I'll be anxious, I'll be scared, I'll be frightened, I'll be in those states of suffering. Then I make it out of the situation and then I get to happiness and gratitude and love. Well, let me just shortcut the process of just being that now. Because the more I can hold steady and vibrate on that frequency now, the less in the time period is going to occur in order for that to actually match up to my reality. That's the thermostat.
Yes.
The more I can to hold steady in that vibration now, the more that vibration actually speeds up the process of all these things occurring. Now, mastery is not looking at one situation as this is something to suffer in and this is something to be grateful with. Mastery is looking at all the situations like it's all just happening for me and I can love it all. I can love what is. I can love reality for as it's showing up.
Yes. And I love the reframe from life is happening to me to life is happening through me. You know what I'm saying? Like this life is happening through me, through my eyes, which I can see, through my ears, which I can hear, through my voice, which I can speak.
Oh, I love that.
You know, a lot of people will stop at for me, but it's not even for us. It's through us.
Yeah.
You know, through him, with him, in the unity of the spirit of oneness. You know what I'm saying? We all have the ability to tap in to that, the natural essence of our soul.
Yeah.
And so that brings me to the soul's mission, AKA the purpose. And so where was it in all of this? You know, I know you did the 3-year bid after coming out of the hospital, but when did you start to first connect to your purpose and to your soul's mission?
It was when I first started to think about it is when I was in jail. You know, this is a very interesting is that if you would have asked me this last year, I would have told you when I got out of jail and when I started diving into personal development. But I have all my journals from when I was in jail. So it was a few months ago, I just pulled out my journals and start reading them. And in that journal, I'm writing when I'm in jail, like, what's my purpose? Like, I have to be here for a reason. So I started thinking about that when I was in jail, right? It's like, have you ever just like been in your environment and you looked around and you knew that whatever was occurring, you were, I don't like saying this, but you were more than what was occurring. Like, I'm better than this. I'm better than being in this jail. I'm better than to be in this situation. Like, I'm more than this. I'm more than this. I'm more than this. There has to be more than this. So I was looking around me and I'm like, there has to be more to life than this.
Yeah.
Like, what's my purpose? What is my reason of being? And shout out to Mom Dukes. When I was in jail, she started sending me books. So that's the first time I started reading books. That's the first time I started journaling. And in that, just sitting with myself and questioning myself is when I started really thinking about, okay, what is my purpose and everything? And then it's when I got out of jail that it started to solidify, right? That's when I really started diving into personal development. I remember having a vision. I was on house arrest in my mom's kitchen, and I had a vision of myself speaking on stages in front of millions of people. And like, that was like the solidifying, like, okay, my purpose is to inspire these people, and my purpose is to facilitate transformation for the lives of others. I didn't have that language then. It was just to inspire people. But the solidification of it was having that insight and allowing myself to explore the depths of that, of what's my purpose. And let me stay in this space and keep exploring it here until I could cultivate the wording that most aligns with my spirit to bring to the world.
Yes. I even love the fact that you didn't have the words for it, because what you had is the vision, and the connection to that vision, you know, at its inception, it's step one. And so, and it goes in that order: thoughts, words, actions, and so on. And so for my brothers and sisters listening out there, even if you don't have the words for it, even if you don't know what step one is, hold that vision, cultivate that vision, go to sleep at night dreaming about being in front of millions. And sometimes the stage changes, because you may not be on a literal stage. Maybe you on Joe Rogan next week speaking to literally like tens of millions.
Yeah.
And so we don't even know what's possible. That's
I received that.
I'm inviting you into it. You know what I'm saying? Because I believe in you, bro. Like just on the real, I can see you.
I appreciate it.
And so like, you don't have to have it all figured out, but you do have to be in connection through your heart energy, through your gut, through your knowingness to that vision. How do you have the confidence to do it? Where does that piece come from in you? Because I see it in you.
Yeah, I have the confidence to do it because it's who I am. So people try to outdo who they are. You can never outdo who you're being. Anything that you're doing now or that you ever will do or that you ever has done, it flows out of the person that you're being. When you're being angry, you do angry things. When you're being shy, you do the things that a shy person would do. When you're being confident, you do the things that a confident person would do. So somebody just asked me this the other day. He said, "Oh my God, how do you stand up on stage and tell people that you are a God and through your thoughts, feelings, and words, like, how do you do that?" I'm like, it's not something I do. It's just who I am.
Yes.
Like you don't ask birds, how do they tweet? Or you don't ask the tree, how does it grow? It's just naturally what it flows out of their being, their essence. So it wasn't until I started really exploring and asking, who am I? And creating this person. The person that you see in front of you today is a creation. Like I created Kusudi. I've created who I am in all the aspects, right?
Yeah.
So I want people out there to start questioning, who is it that you think you are? Because whoever you think you are, my question to you is, when did you make up in your mind that that's who you are? When did you accept that identity? And most people, they've accepted a limiting identity, but they don't even see it as limiting. They just see it as that's who they are. But start asking questions and stop making statements.
Become curious once again. Become curious.
Yeah. Questions open the mind, statements close the mind. So instead of saying things like this piss me off, ask, what about this pisses me off?
Yeah.
Oh, I can never speak on stage. I'm too scared. What aspect of me is scared to go and speak on stage? When did I accept that identity of myself? Oh, I'm not a reader. When did you make up in your mind you want to read it? Because you didn't like the 4th grade history book?
Who told you couldn't sing? Who told you couldn't sing? Why do you believe that? That's a big one for people.
Yeah, exactly. And from that standpoint, you could become like a child again, and you can start creating this identity. Children can create identity so quick. You can tell that children he's Superman, and they'll be ready to hop off the balcony if you don't stop them because they think they can fly. Right? I saw a video of a kid. People may have seen it. It's been a viral video. I mean, it's been over expanded the last couple of years or so. But it's like a kid, he has like the Spider-Man cape, and his dad is like downstairs on the couch recording. You see the kid hop down all the stairs and just land on the platform.
I've seen it.
Yeah, and his dad was like, "Yeah, let's not do that again." But like this kid had this perception of himself that I am Spider-Man or I'm Superman, and that's what Spider-Man or Superman would do. Well, if you take that curiosity on for yourself and you start exploring all the things that you know about yourself, because it's not who you think you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not that holds you back. Yes. And once you could start thinking about who is it that I think that I'm not, you can start creating the version of yourself to where it's just naturally who you are. It's the essence that you vibrate. And from that space, there's nothing else to do but what that space calls for.
Precisely. This in a word is called embodiment.
Yeah.
That's it. And when someone is in their embodiment, speaking, acting from their embodiment, it comes across as effortless. In that piece, what I'm calling confidence, it's a massive part of it, especially for men. Confidence is a force multiplier. when people feel our confidence in our embodiment, they listen. They listen closely. They trust. They're a bit more like open, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And every man should discover the confidence of himself that is not based off of anything else but who you are.
Yes.
So the way I first got confidence is I got it through things. I wasn't confident in myself. So I went out and I hustled and I got money. Right. The dude at my school, he was the ugliest dude. Shout out the homie Damo, rest in peace, Damo. He's the ugliest dude in the school, but he's the freshest and he gets girls because he had all the money. I'm like, this dude is so ugly, but he got the money. And I'm like, you know what? So I got to get money to be confident. So it came from that space. So I felt how confidence felt because it came from materialistic things. But it wasn't until the materialistic things weren't there that now I get to see who is it that I'm truly beyond the money, beyond the women, beyond the success, beyond the things that are perceivably make someone feel confident. And it's not until you get to that state that you're truly able to operate in this world at your highest capabilities. Because when you have that level of confidence, it's not wavered by outside circumstance. It's not wavered by I'm confident when everybody knows me, but I'm not confident when nobody knows me. Or I'm confident when I'm outside and I have on all the clothes, all the jewelry, the car. But then if you catch me when I don't have anything on, I'm not confident anymore. Can your confidence come from who you are? And every man should get to that point where that confidence comes from and women should get to that point where that confidence comes from who they are.
Yes. And this is when we can bring the statements back into our beingness. And yes, I agree with you. Like, we got to ask more questions. We have to become curious about our triggers, about the things that can be revealed about ourselves. And then when we come to the statements, they're very simple. I am peace. I am love. I am whole. I am free. I am. These are the type of statements that we get to come into contact with when we come into that space of embodiment. I'll share a quick story. Our social media guy, shout out to Brick Bain. He does an amazing job. At this recent event, we had 250 men all in a circle. We brought Brick up and honored him. He does largely stuff behind the scenes, on social media. And he got up and he gave like a 10-minute speech, bro. And afterwards he told me, he's like, I've never talked in front of that many people before. He's like, but I wasn't scared at all. I was like, you know why? I was like, because you're a fucking leader, because you know exactly what you're talking about, because it's real and you didn't know what was coming. In the moment, we brought you up on stage and you did the thing. And so that's another step towards embodiment when we find ourselves like doing things that we didn't even know we could do.
Yeah, exactly. Because it just flows out of who you are naturally. So it is effortless because it's effortless is when effortless is non-resistance. So things become effortless when you're in full alignment. No part of yourself is resisting to it. So when you're trying to be confident, it's a false bravado. There's a part of yourself that's resisting to it because it's like you're dealing with imposter syndrome in the back of your mind. So you're trying to override that with confidence, but that takes effort. Effortlessly is when it just flows. It's natural. It's just who I am. There's no resistance in my mind. There's no resistance in my well-being. Everything is just in alignment to where there will be nothing else to do but what I'm doing. There will be nothing else to do but what I'm doing in this moment.
Yes. And I like this too. There's no resistance. However, there are limitations and there are boundaries. And that young man, even with that Superman cape on, he jumped down those stairs and he found out that there was a limitation to how far he could fly. Okay. And so the limitations are real based on who we are. And you've already alluded to that, but I like this idea, especially for men, that we have to come into contact with our limitations. We have to push the edge of our experience so we know where it is. So many men in today's day and age, they do not feel the discomfort or the pushback that comes from the boundary. And so at Sacred Sons, we do a lot of threshold work, a lot of breakthrough type of work, a lot of confronting work. We're sparring. What is this bringing up for you? A lot of fear comes up when men put gloves on to an equal sized opponent who's also coming at them. And so that type of edge pushing reveals our limitations and our boundaries. And from that place, we know what the next action to take.
Yeah. 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 And that's beautiful that you guys cultivate an environment that pushes people past those thresholds, right? I think the only limitation in this world is the one that you're unaware of. But everything after that becomes it's like a wall, a movable wall. Like there's going to be another wall, but like let me push the boundaries, like the threshold. I feel like the only thing that is truly limiting you are the things that you're unaware is limiting you. Because if you were aware of it, then it would no longer be a limitation.
Yeah.
Right. But anything like that, when people say to me, oh, I know why I'm not doing the work, but I just need to get myself to do the work. You don't know why you're not doing the work, because if you knew why, then you would stop doing that to do the work. Like you wouldn't choose not to do the work. Like, right. So when you say, oh, I know what's limiting me, I just can't get over it, or I just haven't chosen to, you don't know what's limiting you. Because if anybody gave you a deck of cards, you wouldn't choose to be limited. You wouldn't choose that hand over again. So because that's what you're experiencing in your reality, then there's something, you may be aware to a facet of maybe what's limiting you, but you're not aware, because to be aware means to not have the limitation no more. But anything after that, once awareness is brought up, then it becomes like a movable wall. You can start pushing the boundaries. You can start pushing the threshold of what you think is possible in your mind.
Yeah, and it's about shining a light on it through awareness, right?
Yeah.
And then coming into the awareness of the shadows and of the shadow behaviors and the things that come along with it, and knowing that those are also not to be discarded, but to have awareness, have out in front of us as we step into life. And, use this card analogy. I used to play a lot of poker, and it's like, no matter what hand you get dealt, you still don't know what's coming on the flop, and you're still in the game. It's like, you might not even see it, but that river card has got your royal flush on it and you didn't even know it. You know what I'm saying? Like something to this effect. No matter what the hand is that's been dealt, it's like, well, let's reveal the next card.
Yeah.
Because it might change the way you perceive the entire hand.
It may change everything. It may change the way that your opponent perceives it. They may flop because of the way that they perceive it. You can still win. So again, this is my point. So is the limitation your hand, or is the limitation your perception of the hand? It's your perception. Because there's nothing saying that you still can't win.
Right.
But if you count yourself out because you see your hand, then you're counting yourself out, not even knowing all the other factors that are at play. See, that's where it's so important to not get caught up in the how something will occur, because there's your hand and then there's spirit. And spirit may have a card that's waiting to flip that would change the circumstance of everything. Spirit may tell the other person you need to flop, right? So it's not just about your hand, but when you start trusting spirit and you start trusting all the unseen forces that are at play as well, you may be perceived like, okay, this is not something win, but you may have a winner when it's all said and done.
Yeah. So with the people that you work with in your one-on-one coaching and even in the talks that you give, what do you see as what's happening in the world? What are the limitations that your clients, what are the deep pieces that they're dealing with?
So I wouldn't say deep, because there's nothing that is deep, or that's just all in their thinking. So I just work with my clients on their thoughts and their ways of being.
Yeah,
that's it. You're only stuck in your thoughts. You only suffer in your thoughts. Suffering doesn't occur anywhere else than your thoughts. So the number one thing I work with my clients on is, but see, even as someone perceives something as deep, it may feel like, oh, it's so deep. This is something I can't get out of. That's just your thoughts about the situation. There's nothing in heaven saying what you're dealing with is deep. Like there's nothing, there's nothing in the stars that's written, and whatever this situation is, a quote unquote deep situation, that's your perception of it. But what if you didn't perceive it as deep? Then, ooh, dang, maybe this is not deep. No, it's not deep. Okay, well, yeah, I can work myself out of this thing. But when it sounds deep, when it sounds heavy, when it sounds something big or major, then you attach feelings and emotions that creates more of that. So the number one characteristic that I think anybody could have, and at a fundamental level, this is what I do with my clients, is the number one characteristic is not, what would you say the number one characteristic that somebody could have?
The number one characteristic?
Yep, that somebody could have in this world.
I would say it's their operating system. Are they operating out of fear or out of love?
So their operating system, at their fear or up it's fear of their love.
True. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I hear people say confidence. I hear people say belief. I hear people say consistency, discipline, action. Right. I think the number one characteristic that anybody can have is awareness. You have to know what your operating system is. You have to become aware of that. You have to know if you're operating out of fear or love to be able to switch it. So at a fundamental level, the things that I do with my clients is raise their level of awareness. Because once I raise your level of awareness, wherever problem that you're coming to me to solve, I don't help my clients solve problems. I help them access the version of themselves that has the solutions to their problems. Yes. And that version of themselves realizes that there was never a problem to begin with. Albert Einstein said you can't solve a problem at the same level of consciousness that created it. Another way of saying it. So I helped them access another level of consciousness that from that standpoint, which you felt was so deep, you would just look at it like a series of actions to get complete. So that's all that I do with my clients. So I've worked with billionaires. I've worked with millionaires. I've worked with single moms. I've worked with captains on law enforcement. I've worked with all type of people because I don't have to know what your problem is, right? I don't have to. One of my clients sold a business for $50 million. I don't have to know how to sell a business for $50 million. You know how to. I just have to help you access the version of yourself that knows how to do that.
Yes.
And the only thing that's stopping you from tapping into that version are the thoughts that you have about whatever situation is occurring. And once we can look at those thoughts and investigate it and create new ways of coming from, new ways of being, then you will have the solutions to anything you feel like is a perceived problem in this world.
This is amazing what you're saying, because awareness is not necessarily the thing that will set you free. Having awareness of the cell or the cage that you're in is not actually the key to the door. It's that next level of consciousness, or maybe even zooming out to that full perspective to, like you said, access the consciousness that already has the key, that realized there was no cell to begin with.
Yes.
That's amazing. But I'm going to challenge you now on the depth. Okay. And I'm going to talk about some people that you serve, because I saw you some children in Africa. And I know when you do that work, you feel it more deeply. Come on, son. There is a depth to the feeling and the experience of life that is undeniable. And I have to imagine that working with those children, bringing them joy, and whatever the things that are happening over there, you gotta feel that deeply, don't you?
Yeah. So this is what I would say is that there's a depth to feelings. There's not a depth to problems. The depth to the problems is your thinking around the problem, internal problems.
Yeah.
But there's a depth to the level of fulfillment that you can experience in this world, 100%.
Yeah. And so what was that? What's it like for you to travel to Africa and, to do that type of work?
Man, listen, I didn't even go to Africa to do that. I went to Africa because I woke up on Wednesday and God said, go to Africa.
Yeah.
Spirit said you needed to go to Africa. So I woke up on Wednesday, Spirit said you need to go to Africa. I'm like, Africa, and this is in the middle of COVID. This is 2021. We're in 2023. Yeah, 2021 went 2 years ago. So this is like the tail end of it, but I'm living in LA. LA's still in lockdown at this point. And Spirit is saying you need to go to Africa. So I was like, okay, well, that's why, when you're clear on what you want, the universe will organize itself in its way to bring it to you.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I don't want to go to Africa and just do the touristy thing. I don't want to go with 50 people and we're just waving at kids. No, I want to get in touch with the people. So I made a Facebook post does anybody know anybody in Africa? And people are like, bro, Africa is this huge continent. Where? I'm like, I don't know. Spirit just told me to go to Africa. Well, one of my close friends, shout out Lucas, he has a production company called Sterling Light Productions. And he sent me a documentary of a guy that he did in Africa. Everybody should check out this documentary. It's called Mully, Mully. the Mully documentary, right? It's free on YouTube. I think you type in mullydocumentary.com. The free videos is on there. They're in different languages. Definitely check it out. It's life-changing. But it's a documentary of a guy, long story short, who was basically, he started off in a village. He was homeless when I think from like 6 to 13. At the age of 6, his family just abandoned him. He woke up, his family abandoned him. He was just living on the streets for 13 years, walked to Nairobi. It's like a 2, 3, 4 day walk or something like that. Start knocking on doors just for anybody to try to get him some help, to get some work. A lady invited him in. He had to be like that house cleaner, cut the grass, everything like that. Her husband was the CEO of a business, an agriculture business. After 6 months, her husband hired him on to become manager and taught him everything he needed to know about business. And then in the 80s, he became a multimillionaire. Like he had a monopoly on oil and like gas. He had like a bus company, gas stations. Like he just became a multimillionaire. And then he had this revelations just through a lot of different things that I need to go back and I need to save kids. So he gave up all his money. He shut down all of his businesses, like didn't cash flow them. He like shut them down and committed his life to like saving kids. And now he's built like multiple schools. He's helped tens of thousands of kids. He provides free water for a different wide range of people in Africa. It's fully self-sustainable. They do their own agriculture. He exports like 40 tons of beans. Like, I mean, this man is absolutely phenomenal. It's like a modern day Gandhi, a modern day Mother Teresa or something, right? So I tell you guys that story for a reason. So I see this documentary. Lucas sent it to me. I watched it and I called Lucas back the same day. I said, man, I have to meet this guy. He was like, okay, cool. He said, maybe towards the end of this year. This is March. I said, no, like, I want to meet him this weekend. He said, what are you talking about? That's like in 4 days. I said, I got to meet this guy. Call him and see if you allow me to meet him. He called the guy and the guy said I could come. So I flew out to Africa on Sunday. So I woke up on Wednesday, got connected to somebody, flew out on Sunday. I get there, they have a 3-week itinerary laid out for me because they're used to having tourists come every week. They used to have like 50 people come a week. Well, when I got there, they had this whole itinerary laid out and it was just for me. I was the only person there. It wasn't any more tourists. And then they start asking me about me. And then they learned that I speak. So they were like, well, would you be willing to speak to our kids? And I was like, yeah, no problem. And then they come back with this itinerary, updated itinerary. And it was like, 2 speaking engagements this day, 1 speaking engagement this day, 3 speaking. I'm like,
they put you on tour.
Yeah, I'm like, no, this is a tour. So leading up to it, people kept asking me, why are you going to Africa? And my only response is, I'm only going to get whatever God has for me. Like, I'm just going to get what God has for me. So then when I got the itinerary, I went back in my room. I said, God, I didn't come here to speak. I said, I could have stayed in the States to do that. And God said, well, what did you come here for? I said, well, I came to get whatever you have for me. God said, well, I have for you to speak. So I ended up speaking across there. And that's what changed my life.
What country did you go to?
It was in Kenya, but it was in like all across Kenya and villages in the slums and schools. I mean, some of these, I wanted to speak, not even just one, a few of them. I go to speak. I'm like, hey, can I use the bathroom? And they pretty much just take me to a hole in the back. Like that was it. I was like, whoa. Like, you're in places where the small building that they have is not big enough for the kids. So, school is underneath a tree in the shade. And like, this is where I'm speaking to. And it was such a fulfillment. It was one of the most fulfilling experiences that I've ever experienced in my life. It felt such a connection. It felt such at home. It's like, it was like giving something to people who don't even know. It's different than here in the States. They say that, oh, well, kids in Africa, like they're so happy and they're fulfilled and they have nothing, but you have everything and you're not fulfilled. And there's, again, remember how I started off this conversation, there's there's multifaceted, right? So that is one truth, right? Another truth is that and this was the thing that was kind of disheartening, is that they're happy with what they have because they don't even know differently.
Yeah.
The person who did my videography at that event, he's 33 right now. He didn't know about toilets until he was 18 years old and he went to college. And he was like, yo, these are fancy. When did y'all get these? Like, what? Like, y'all got these. When did they create these?
Yeah.
So if you didn't know about anything as well, then you would never.
That's another piece of awareness, right?
Yeah.
If you're unaware that something exists or is possible, then it doesn't affect you.
It doesn't affect you. And in a lot of cases, that's how it is.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that. So I realized that the moment that, I walked into a visualization exercise and I'm here in the States, I'm like, imagine that you have your car, imagine that you have your house, and like, they don't know what a Ferrari is. They don't know what a Lamborghini is. They don't know these exotic cars. Some of them have never seen TV. They don't know what a skyscraper is. Like, some of them didn't know any of these things. And I'm like, yeah, that's why they have a sense of fulfillment, because their world, they think this is all to life there is. Their mind would be blown taking them to New York City or taking them to the States or anything in that capacity. Not all of them, but some of them. And it's not like that in all places, right? There's a lot of places where they got access to a lot of technology and computers and everything like that. But it was just a fulfillment that you really don't know how blessed you are. If you live in America, I didn't say this until I went out of the country, because it sounded so patriotic. But if you live in America, you live in one of the greatest countries with the greatest possibilities to be, do, and have anything that you desire in this world.
Yeah.
Anything that you desire.
Absolutely. It's a blessing in this particular incarnation in this time. It's also a paradox, because we know that blessing has a cost. Everything has a cost. And we're seeing that play out on a global scale. If you're following what's happening in the Middle East, if you're following what's happening in Eastern Europe, this is the cost of the potential of our freedom, or for that. And it's paradoxical, because also, like you said, people are suffering because, man, we're scrolling through Instagram and we're looking at all these cars and all these things that we don't have. And that's creating suffering in the mind. And for what? It's, for me, it's challenging to really wrap my mind around the physical suffering that is happening, not in my specific reality, but goddamn, I open my phone. If you follow Sean King and you open your phone in the morning, I'm on the front lines with you, like, feeling it.
Yeah.
And so I guess, I'm zooming out in the world, and I'm gonna come back to you, but like, when you look at the collective state of things, and in your purpose to bring others towards their purpose, what is your vision of what's happening collectively along with this spiritual awakening, this conscious awakening?
So the first thing that comes to mind is that when you have a collective view of the world, where is that coming from? You have to be very aware of where that viewpoint is even coming from.
Yes.
So I had somebody that said, like, oh, Dubai, Dubai is like this. And I'm like, you never even been to Dubai. So your viewpoint of what's occurring is just coming from what others are creating around you, right? Congo has been suffering for years and years, and there's so much going on there, but we don't feel that because we're not seeing that as much as we're seeing other suffering that is taking place in this world, right? So I think the world and media is always, there was never a time where you felt fulfilled by consuming the media for a year. Like, there's going to be
no doubt.
Yeah, there's never been a time like that, right? So for myself personally, I stay in a state of joy and happiness and fulfillment, because I know that it's occurring somewhere else. I'm just not seeing it just as much as all the other stuff is occurring. The universal law is polarity. So it may seem like it's more of this than that. No, more of this is just being shown than that. But if more of this was being shown, more of the happiness is being shown, then you may not feel as much of there, because something phenomenal is taking place somewhere in this world, right? And with my purpose to do is to go out and as much suffering that I can, because I think, in my belief, the biggest problem in this world is not money and war and all these things that are taking place. The biggest problem in this world is people not knowing their purpose, number one, and then number two is not living in it.
Yeah.
It's hard to really live in harmony, which I think purpose is, with people, nature, humans, animals, and then just to be destroying it. Like, it's hard to live in alignment with your assignment, and that's what's occurring. So I feel the biggest problem in this world is people don't know what their purpose is. New York Times did a study, Stanford did a study, and they found that about 80% of people in this world, they don't know what their purpose is. That 80% of people in this world, they can't finish a statement, my purpose is. And Bonnie Ware, she wrote a book called The 5 Regrets of the Dying. And the number one deathbed regret that somebody has when they're transitioning is that I didn't live a life true to myself, not work, part 2, comma, and not worrying about the opinions of others. Well, a life true to yourself is your purpose. So if you look at numbers, right, this was one of my biggest realizations. This is when I knew I was created for this, right? Is there 7.99 billion people in this world, right? If you get out your calculator, there's 7.99 billion people in this world. To believe you have a purpose is to believe in something greater than yourself. It's to believe in a source greater than yourself, to believe you have a purpose, right? To believe in God, Jesus, Allah, Buddha, some universe, something bigger than yourself. So about 80% of the people in this world, they believe in something bigger than themselves. So if you take 7.99, you take 80% of people in this world that believe they have a purpose, that gives you 6.39 billion people, right? That believe they have a purpose. But then 80% of those people, they don't know what their purpose is. So if you times that number and find 80% of that people, that's 5.11 billion. It's 5.1139, right? I was born on May 11th, 5/11, and there's 5.11 billion people who don't know what their purpose is. So my purpose in this world is to go out and impact that number. And my belief is that starting next year, beginning next year, I will be able to create a worldwide, I don't even like calling it a movement because movements come and go, but it's like spiritual systems, they live generations and generations. So it's like a spiritual belief system and one of purpose that I'll be able to impact 5.11 billion people over the span of 39 years. But what is it that I have planned for this world? And help anybody and all people around this world discover their purpose. Go all around this world, 198 countries, 7,000 different languages, 4,500 different type of religions, helping all people around this world discover and live in their purpose. Because once that is in tune with oneself, it's hard to go out here and inflict harm or suffering on anybody else.
That's it. That's just it, isn't it? The more that we live in our alignment, in our truth, in our love, we lessen the suffering that's actually happening in the world.
Yeah. And it's each and every, and purpose is one of those concepts, right? Somebody could say, my belief and my ability to take it to a worldwide scale, and everybody listen to this, you hear it announced. When it occurs, you're going to be like, hey, he was on Sacred Son podcast and he said it, right? But, there's very few things that transcends boundaries, especially on a global scale and language barriers and everything, right? So like music is something that could transcend boundaries. It's like, you don't have to understand the words, but you could feel the feeling, right? Love transcends boundaries. You don't have to speak the same background, language, come from the same background, speak the same language, have the same belief system, but you understand love. And purpose is one of those things that we don't have to believe in the same source. We don't have to come from the same background. We don't have to speak the same language. We don't have to live in the same country, none of that. But we understand purpose. We understand purpose.
Yeah, we feel it. Like passion is one of the most respectable things. When it doesn't matter what someone's passionate about, if they're creating more connection and unity through their passion, like it's all respectable. Yeah,
it's respectable. And you feel it and you see it and you can see it and you know it. Like, oh, that dude, like he's passionate about that. Oh, she's passionate about that. She's living in that, right? You could see it, and purpose is one of those things, man. And I aim to. It's not even I aim to because it's already occurring. Is I'm living in that now, and I'm impacting people to discover their purpose now. And if God's willing, and the alignment is to create something that goes on a worldwide scale. I study leadership.
It's all happening, bro.
Yeah, it's happening now. It's just already unfolding. So I'm excited at the continuous unfolding of it.
Yes, it's happening now. And step one, in terms of these spiritual systems that can transcend the boundaries of language, is Korah. The creators of Reality Academy, you have the structure.
Yeah.
Tell us about the creators of Reality Academy.
Yeah, so Korah, that's my baby, man. I truly believe that we're all creators. We come from a creator. So it's like the video that you probably saw that went viral. It's like when I say I'm a God, a creator, and through my thoughts, feelings, and words, I create the reality in which I live in. I'm not the God. I'm just a. I'm not the. I come from that. If I said I had a pet that was made in the image and likeness of a turtle, you'll say I have a turtle. If I have a pet that's made in the image and likeness of a dog, you say I have a dog. Well, if I'm made in the image and likeness of God, then I'm a God. If I'm made in the image and likeness of the creator, then I'm a creator. And we create the reality in which I live in. At the beginning, even in the Bible, and I reference the Bible because that's what most people know, but if you look at any text, we could reference them all. But at the beginning of the Bible, it says, at the beginning was the Word was God, the Word was with God. So the Word was God, and God spoke and said, let there be light. So when we speak, and our words and our thoughts are words and our feelings, that is the vibratory mechanism that we use to create the reality in which we live in. So I truly believe that everything that we're currently experiencing is our own creation. It's our own doing. And I want to teach people how to create the reality in which they desire to live, because most people, the gap is where most people experience depression, anxiety, a lack of fulfillment, frustration, doubt, unconfidence, the gap. And it's the gap between the current reality that you experience and the reality that you've envisioned for your life. Like that gap is where most suffering occurs. When you think that whatever is happening should be different. That's the only way suffering could occur, is when you think whatever is happening should be differently.
Right. Or that you think you're not responsible for creating the way it is.
Yeah, because
there's a sense of responsibility and ownership here too. It's not all fucking manifestation. It's like we gotta own this shit.
You got 100% of it. Like that's the first thing. 100%. It's your reality. Like,
yes.
Can you not take responsibility? Well, he did this, she did. Yes, in your reality. So you allowed this occurring. There's a part of you that manifested itself in your reality. This is your doing. Or I didn't go out and cheat. This showed up in your reality. And if you want to change it, then you got to take responsibility for everything that occurred.
Yes.
So that's what the aim of Korah is. The reason I created it is because, the last years I've spoken around the world helping people discover their purpose, but discovering your purpose is not enough. Like you said, awareness is not enough. Awareness is just step one, because if you discover your purpose and now you're aware of it, I can anybody in this world discover their purpose in the span of 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I've did it on stages in front of tens of thousands of people all around, or anybody, it doesn't matter. And what happens is that I can spend 10, 15 minutes helping you discover your purpose, but then you spend the next 10 or 15 years doubting your ability to actually live in it and bring it into fruition in this world. And what Korah was created for was not just to discover your purpose, but teach you the tools and strategies to actually go out and live in it. You need to have a level of belief. You need to have a level of knowing how to take action. You need to have a level of awareness of your thoughts. You have to understand the spiritual laws of the universe and the universal laws of success. And that's what Korah was taking all this information, over $250,000 of traveling around the world, coaching and seminars and masterminding and life experience and all these different things that I've done, and bringing it to the masses of people for them to be able to get this information. and apply it in their own life to start seeing results so they can create what they do want to show up.
Yes, I'm all for that practical application. It's one thing to give somebody a recipe in a cookbook, and it's another thing to know how to make a meal.
Yeah, exactly.
You could read a cookbook your whole life and never know how to fucking make a meal.
Yeah, because that's the awareness. That's the awareness. It's like, oh, I know how. Okay, well, do you know how to apply it? Like, that's where it comes down to. Knowledge is not power. The application of knowledge is power.
Yes. And I did see that video that went viral. And I love the way that you broke it down. And you don't have to explain it to me, bro. You know, the Rasta's been saying I ever since. You know, even the RZA and Wu-Tang. What's up, God? If we could all come with that level of awareness to see God in everyone that we encounter.
Yeah.
Like that will create so much less suffering in this world.
Yeah. What you just said so beautifully is like, to me, that's what spirituality truly is. Spirituality to me is being able to see yourself in everything. So I can see the God in you because I can see the God in me. And spirituality is looking at everything as a mirror of yourself. And I think if you get present to life enough, this life is the best book that you could ever read about you. People is the best book you could ever read about you. Your opinion, your thoughts of somebody else is just an opinion and thoughts that you can't see in anything else what's not in you. And that's why I spend as much time working on myself, because the more I can see me, the more I can see you. The more I can love me, the more I can love you. The more I can accept every part of me, the more I can accept every part of you. And to me, that's what true spirituality is. And whatever pathway is the pathway for somebody to get to that state for themselves, I think that's the ultimate state of being, where you're just in a state of love and acceptance, because at the end of the day, not accepting somebody else is not accepting a part of yourself. Because this person, out of 8 billion people, this person showed up in your reality, and it's just a mirror of yourself.
Man, there's nothing more true, man. It's like, I've had experiences where I was shown that very sentiment, that there are not enough books in the world to fill all the pages of what we can actually experience in this life. And sometimes we got to come out of the diagnosis, the researching, the attempt to knowing, and really be it, and really be here. Really be here. Are you really here for this life? If you're listening this far, are you really about it? Are you really here for your life?
Yeah.
And if so, get to work.
Yeah.
Step 1, start to cultivate your awareness. Step 2, let's define our purpose.
Yeah.
I'm throwing these steps out based on what you said.
No, but they're beautiful steps. Hey, keep going.
And step 3, take that first step into acting upon your purpose with no hesitation.
Yeah. That's beautifully said. It's so funny because those are literally like almost exactly the first step of the core.
Yeah.
So 1 is like your purpose. Lesson 2 is like identifying your passion, the way that you can live in it. And everything you just said is so true, bro. It's like, are you truly here? Like, are you truly here? Like, stop reading about life and just go and live it and be present with it and find love in every single thing that you can about it, in every single aspect. And if what you want to experience, it's always right here in front of you. And to tie it back to how I started off, it's always here if you're willing to explore a different way of looking at the thing that you've been looking at the whole time. And when you could find the way of viewing it that empowers you the most, that empowers the other person the most, that loves you the most, that loves the other person the most, then you could live a life fulfilled and not a life of suffering.
Beautiful. It's all here. It's always been here, and it will always continue to be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kusudi, my bro, I think we gave him enough inspiration on this one. This is a full power hour of inspiration for people to get to it And we're inviting you. We're inviting you to step into it. And like, I'll bring it back around for me. A big part of my purpose, like I said, is finding the others and finding the light. So I look forward to inviting you into Sacred Sons at some point on the journey. It was beautiful to have you here and to have you felt by our community. No doubt. Want to send all the brothers who are feeling, if you're feeling this conversation, check out Kusudi, check out his videos, check out his course, Cora. With that, my brother, is there any message, any prayer that you would like to leave with the brothers and sisters who are listening?
First of all, I want to thank you, Adam, for this, man. This has been one of my favorite podcasts. And I don't just say that lightly. Like, if you go listen to this one and you listen to the other ones, you could feel the difference, man. So this was a very natural flow. So I very much appreciate you. And for those that follow you, keep following Adam, man. He has a beautiful spirit. He's very tapped in. You guys are in great hands being here right now. So I just want to tell you, man, I love you. I honor you. I truly appreciate the conversation and who you are in this road. And for everybody in this road, just know that you truly have the ability to create your world. You truly have the ability to create your world by creating yourself to being somebody more than who you've been accepting yourself to be in this world. And when you create who you are and live a life in congruency with your purpose, you would truly experience a life of fulfillment. And I think personal fulfillment and financial success is ultimate fulfillment, is the ultimate success in this world. Financial freedom is the ultimate success in this world. So check me out, Kusudi, I-A-M Kusudi on Instagram, KusudiCoaching.com for anybody that is courageous enough that wants to come and share some space with me. We may be on a mountain, we may be by the beach, we may be somewhere.
I know you got people jumping out of airplanes, you do it all.
Yeah, my client just came down for a 2-day retreat. We just went skydiving this past weekend, man. It was a lot of fun. That's the pushing the boundaries, right? So that's the awareness, and you're aware of what's causing you fear. Now can you actually apply it and get over the fear? That's why I did that, and he did it.
And then realize when those feet hit the ground, you feel more alive than ever because you move through it.
Yeah, and there was nothing to be fearful of. So I appreciate you, brother. I look forward to connecting with people in your community. I look forward to potentially coming to one of the events as well, man. And just thank you so much, Adam. You're a beautiful, beautiful spirit, and your people are in the right hands for sure.
Appreciate you saying that. Appreciate you saying yes to this. Woo! Purpose of self. With that, Kusudi, Muithi, Cora, creators of Reality Academy, Adam Jackson, Sacred Sons. We're out, family. Peace.
May you continue to hear the sounds of the elements and of the calling of the owl for the guidance that is needed. Now you can bring healing into the world so that the children may fly with their family again.
Brothers, in this moment of chaos, there's a chance to reimagine what it means to be alive. There's a chance to really come to terms with what it means to be our most authentic selves.
It calls to you. That's why you get out of bed, even when you feel like your life is miserable. Something brings you up. Something demands you feel. Something is telling you to step into more because you are more.